government, just look at what they do. Can't trust the media, they're all full of lies. Once you know a little bit, all hope in you dies. Live free or die. Live free or die. Live free or die. Live free or die. What the hell is that? Votes just the same, nothing but a crap. They tell you what to think, they control what you see. Why don't you think and heard it on TV? I said live free or die. 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 Live free or die.
Welcome to another exciting edition of Hardfire TV. My name is Cameron Weber. Thank you for watching. This will be our March 2025 show. Today we continue with our Privatize Everything series about roads. Private roads are more efficient because government doesn't have a profit motive to be efficient. The state uses expensive, well-connected labor unions for construction projects and often corrupt procurement processes. This labor leader patronage system also reduces investment in labor-saving technology. However, despite these problems, perhaps maybe public roads are a public good for national defense and welfare state reasons, which we talked about in our last
We
program.
discussed this, yes, sir.
And we decided that perhaps they're not public goods, and perhaps that's an oversold statement. Right. To discuss privatizing the streets of New York City, especially in light of the new congestion tax, timely again. Welcome back to the show, Derek Sacerdote.
Glad to be here, Cameron.
Thank you. Let's discuss the city streets.
Yes.
First, roads for new development usually start out private in unincorporated areas. People pay to extend the pavement up to their property, and then the next person further up the street would pay for the road up to their property and onward. Then the problem becomes maintaining the roads. This is the collection action problem because some people might not have the incentive to pay for the maintenance, but we've decided that in fact they have more incentive to pay for it if it's right in front of them.
If you specifically break it up and there's no commons essentially. The section in front of my house is mine. It's not shared by the street or the neighborhood. That's my section of road.
So, but then what? You don't think commons are an important part of social structure, social society?
And if we can get around them, it seems like it's asking for trouble. I mean, it's asking for either overuse.
It's a thin wedge.
Yeah, overuse by some, or no one takes responsibility for anything.
Right.
It becomes it's not mine, so I don't care, or it's not mine. I'll take the whole thing. You know, it becomes.
I was in England last summer. Did I tell you that?
I believe so.
And I saw some comments, right? And so, but in the United States, I guess we didn't really have the same type of development as England, which is we never had serfdom in the United States, I guess.
Not in the same context, no.
No. At least that is one excuse for publicly owned streets is that people won't pay for it. But we've decided if you decentralize it, remove the commons, people will pay for it, right? The second part is once we have city-owned streets, how do we privatize these streets? There are almost 4 million property owners in New York City.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know that the percentage was so high?
Sounds about right.
Fifty.
About half the population
Yeah,
owns
yeah,
property. Yeah,
yeah.
sounds about
About
right.
half. That's been the figure for a long time. About half the population.
That sounds about right. I mean, you consider that there are people who own properties in more than one place. You know, some live here part of the time and somewhere else.
I've been reading about the Revolutionary War in the United States, and it was half were property owners then, and half were not. Also at the same.
So I guess certain things are
And
constants.
it's the same thing in England. The same, landed class still owns most of the land.
Well, don't aspire to own property.
Exactly. There's almost 4 million property owners in New York City. How do you get this large number of people to agree on street privatization?
We don't have to all agree. I mean, you would do a referendum on how it's going to be done and whatever
Referendum.
and whatever the majority
Okay,
votes for, that's how it's done.
a referendum.
When do we ever agree on anything? Look, it's done.
A referendum. And that would be a 75% referendum or 50% referendum or
Maybe just a plurality.
plurality. Well, yes, with either just a yes. And how would you do it? Again, county by county or
I mean, since it's
we're talking about New York City specifically.
well, yeah, I mean, there's no reason why each borough can't
Zip code.
you can break it down as small as you want. I mean, it would be easier probably to do it as a entire city, but you could break it down. You could more micro level if there's certain areas that are
Referendum. I like that.
leaning more in favor of it than others. Yeah, you could
Yeah.
section by section. I mean, there are areas in New York City even today, very small areas, where the roads have always been private and they remain private.
Exactly.
Very small areas, but they
Yeah.
they hang on.
And they get a real estate tax deduction, right?
I'm not entirely sure how that works. I'm not sure how that works.
Yeah. Well, the technological solution for privatization is already happening, right?
Right.
The congestion tax is a form of user fee, which would approach a market price if it was done right.
Correct.
Yeah. The problem with the way the New York City congestion tax is done now is that there's just a flat fee to enter the zone.
Right. It's not
It's not really it's not a congestion tax.
It's not based on how many miles you travel when you're in there,
Right.
how long you stay,
or how crowded it is,
or how,
where you are,
or how big, what time of day you come, or even how big your vehicle is. I would think all these things should rationally be factored in.
So it's not really a congestion tax at all. It's just a fee to enter wealthy Manhattan.
I mean, it seems as if there's many layers of what's going on here with these city tolls, especially the recent one. There's an element of social engineering and control there. They are not just trying to make money on this. They are trying to steer people's travel habits, which is very dystopian.
It's dystopian, sure.
Yeah.
First thing you do is you tell people where they can and cannot go. Some people where you can and cannot work,
Mm-hmm.
where you can and cannot live.
Yeah.
Didn't we go through this with COVID already?
Well, we have to learn the same lesson over and over again with everything. Apparently, because no one cared. Nobody can make it draw parallels.
The fee should really be dynamic based on how crowded it is, given a location, and track specifically where the driver goes.
If it was market based, yeah.
Yeah, congestion. It's also known as surge pricing.
Yeah, like the same way if you take an Uber or if you order food on Uber, the delivery fee and how much you're getting paid varies throughout the day and throughout the city based on demand.
Yeah, exactly. So
that toll should dynamically be changing.
So let's call it what it is. It's not what New York City has.
It's an tax.
It's just a tax. It's not a congestion tax.
And
there's no market.
It's also a disincentive to drive.
There's no market incentives involved.
Yeah.
So it's an abusive language. You used to be a bike messenger, right?
I did bike delivery, yeah.
Bike delivery, yeah, exactly. And was there dynamic pricing there, or fixed fee, or
with every job I did on an app, the pricing was changing throughout the day based on the neighborhood, based on the demand for a particular service, a particular delivery destination, or a particular starting point.
And did you find that dynamic pricing or surge pricing or price gouging accurately reflected market conditions?
Yes,
The reason I'm asking this is because we're assuming that there's the technology
yeah, the
available.
technology and the private industry has been existing for a while because they can very easily
Well, for at least 5 years.
the algorithm probably 10 years. Yeah,
Yeah,
the
10 years. Yeah,
algorithms
yeah.
can easily determine.
It's part of the gig economy.
Right, right.
It was like marketization of making things more efficient.
Decentralization yes.
Decentralization, exactly. Well, it started with the GPS and everything.
Well, GPS enabled a lot of this to happen.
Yeah. And so you can do this privatization without putting in a bunch of security cameras. You can do this surge pricing or dynamic pricing in terms of privatization because the technology is already available.
Already exists in a lot of different forms. Yeah, it's redundant technology is already there.
Uh-huh. And then how do you, okay. Under a privatized road system, the private operator would raise or lower prices to take advantage of new supply and demand conditions. The idea, of course, is to maximize revenue at the same time allocate scarce resources, especially the driver's time, more efficiently.
Right. I mean, I think
Where the city, the way it is now, public roads, there's no
incentive for them to. There's no real incentive for them to make our driving experience faster or more efficient. Or same way for the subway. There's no incentive. There's no incentive for them to have our subway operate more rapidly than or slower.
Sure. Same thing with food stamps. The idea is not really to make people self-sufficient.
Economize, yeah.
It's self-sufficient. It's to make them dependent and thankful for the state provided services, social services. Anyway, so we already see it with Uber. We already see it with Derek's bike delivery stuff. Whereas London has the different model. They have almost 1 million public cameras to enforce their congestion pricing.
Well, I mean, I could see that cameras would play a role in a private system, but you're using it as a tool for like admission. You're not using it as a tracking. You're tracking the vehicle. You're not tracking the person.
Right. But so anyway, I was in England not too long ago, and I saw they have this thing, utilitarianism, British utilitarianism, where that was John Maynard Keynes, where you really should have a ruling class. People that go to Oxford and go to Cambridge, they really should be in charge.
Well,
they really should. As the mayor of London, you really have the right to put up cameras.
Well, there are people who believe that.
That was the British utilitarianism.
I mean, there's plenty of Americans who believe that in that same concept. That somebody smart should be in charge, and just
that's what Alexander Hamilton wanted.
And just have faith in that person.
Right. So we don't in New York City. We only have 18,000 public cameras.
Only.
Yeah. Right. Okay. With the wealth, income, and power of Midtown and downtown Manhattan, it makes sense to charge people for access. How about other areas in the city where that people more or less avoid? How do you privatize those streets if they don't generate income?
But I don't see why they wouldn't generate income because people still live there. People still live there. People just pass through there as a route to somewhere else.
Sure.
I mean, many roads, many avenues are used by people who are not going to those places, but they're just passing through there as the most efficient route to somewhere else.
All right. So I keep going back to, I think it's got to be done by zip code.
I don't see why it can be done by zip code. There's no reason why it can't be done by zip code.
And then for larger areas, right. I mean, you ran for political office, isn't it? The whole jurisdiction and legal structure in the United States based around zip code?
Not really. It's based on these very tessellated maps with a million different twists and turns, a million sided figures.
The political.
Yeah. I mean, they oftentimes group people together. They don't really go together.
So they're politically based. They're not really
they're
geographically.
Well, they're based on population and then how they decide to box in population does not always make sense. It seems like, and sometimes they're trying to box in people who are similar.
Yeah.
Other times it seems like they're trying very hard to box in a diverse bunch of people who don't have any similar.
Yeah, the whole idea is to keep whoever is in office to allow them to remain in office.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Or the opposite, or to get rid of them. It's not that's not incidental. It's always to keep or to get rid of. It's meant that's the goal.
Okay. Right. So my point about that was, if you're going to privatize a zip code or an area jurisdiction, however you're defining it, and obviously the more decentralized the better, I would think, but the private operator who would bid for the area, they would have to take the bad neighborhoods as well as the good neighborhoods.
Yeah, if you're not going street by street, yeah, you'd have to have they would have to take a larger piece. You wouldn't be able to buy like a 1 square mile. You'd have to buy,
Yeah,
like a 10 by 10 block section or something.
something like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would think that just for their own logistics, it almost wouldn't make sense to go like Monopoly. I'm just going to buy Broadway and Marvin Gardens. I think it would almost logistically it would make sense to buy a bigger section, because if you're putting in your
Economies of scale.
well, you're putting in your infrastructure, because you still got to put in whatever system you're using to toll.
Yeah.
It wouldn't make sense to have so many different entry points, and
Yeah. Last time we really covered about all the positive aspects of privatization, that it enables people to be responsible for their own environment, for roads, right? Instead of centrally planned with no efficiency, decentralizing and privatization creates efficiency and more or less cooperating with your neighbors.
Well, I mean,
especially in the city
well,
context.
it kind of would depend with who the buyer is. Are we selling them to, because we have two options going here. Are we selling them to people who are the property owners, or is like some third party buyer who doesn't necessarily live in the area?
Well, it'd be a military contractor, obviously.
Well, yeah, it could be.
No, obviously the best thing to do would be well, this show is being filmed at a cooperative,
Right.
where it is privatized, obviously, and but the common areas are taken together in common, or maintained in common.
You always say that communism works great on a small scale.
On a small scale. That's why I keep saying.
How small though?
That's what I keep saying. Well, the individual.
Yeah, because I mean, even on my block, I think I would say I've been there 22 years on my block. I would say I know.
I've been here 15.
I would say on my block I know maybe 60% of the people. But then if I go one block away up or down,
right,
it drops dramatically. I mean, I hardly know anybody, so it becomes strangers.
So if you do this referendum, and just say hypothetically 65% agree and 35% don't agree, isn't that 35%, wouldn't they be hostile?
Well, I mean, of course there'll be hostile, yes. I mean, but I mean, there's people hostile the way it is now. I mean, I'm hostile. I'm hostile. Every time they add a toll or they add a camera system, people are going to be hostile. I mean, they're hostile
against a tax bill.
Yeah, we're all hostile against what's here now. Many of us are. At least we'll be hostile with some say, having some input in actually what happens.
Right, or your vote might actually matter.
We've at least been asked. We've been at least been asked for some input or some control over the situation.
All right. In New York City, we already have private business improvement districts, right?
Right.
Yeah. BIDs, which are privately funded through dues and provide services like garbage and street cleaning, which the city is supposed to be doing anyway. Couldn't we start privatizing with these decentralized groups who are already taking matters into their own hands?
I don't see why not, because
that seems like that answers your question.
It seems like in what you're saying,
voluntary association,
what you're describing is already occurring in parts of the country where urban areas are losing population and the city infrastructure is failing.
Right.
In these small towns that are kind of half vacant, you're already getting some of this happening. You're seeing, for example, the town doesn't pick up garbage, so there's a private, like you can subscribe to the private pickup. I mean, there's certain things are being privatized
because
already.
Exactly, and so you may be seeing these. Some people say that you're seeing the decay of the American cities. And in 10, 15 years, the cities will be so decayed that the private sector will have to be picking, individuals and local communities will have to be picking up the pieces.
Well, I mean, calling it decay is a matter of is very subjective. I mean, it may
proud New Yorker here.
if it's more efficient or if it's cheaper. I mean, is that decay?
We own our individual properties, but the common space has to be managed mutually as there are scale economies.
I don't think so.
No.
I don't think so. I mean, the example I always give is like a mall.
Yeah.
Like a shopping mall.
Sure.
Now, in a shopping mall, there's roads and there's also pedestrian areas. And people are free to go, you know, when the mall's open, people are free to drive on the mall road and walk around. You don't have to even pay, even to just to be in there because because the mall is expecting you to be a customer.
To say
as the chance you might buy something, you're free to basically be there.
That's also
just,
that creates the commons that we were talking about. So the commons can be private. Mall is an example.
Well, yeah, it's as first
provided commons.
Assuming, you know, obviously when it closes you have to leave, but I mean while it's open,
sure.
You can be on that property, you know, as long as you want.
All right. So we just have 5 minutes left, believe it or not. Of course, the best idea is to remove corruption and gain efficiency is to decentralize political decision-making in society. The reason housing is so expensive is because of city zoning laws preventing multifamily on single lots. I can understand that privatizing the streets might take care of the citywide zoning problem, right? But isn't removing zoning laws more efficient than trying to privatize the city streets?
Why not do both?
Uh-huh.
I mean, the two would go together, in my view.
Right. And I guess our role in that process is education, disseminating these ideas to people.
Our role?
That's our
role. Yeah, to dispel some of the fears.
I know, and you've already started some common areas in your own neighborhood where you're beautifying your own streets. You are beautifying your own street without waiting for the city.
I'm doing that. I've been beautifying my sidewalk for years.
Sure.
Yeah.
At decentralized levels of street privatization, neighborhoods can better tackle local questions like homelessness, mental health issues, public trust use, than can centrally mandated, depersonalized policies without local knowledge and buy-in. Why wouldn't you have to privatize the parks as well? Within the region of the space, if you're privatizing the roads, would you have to privatize the parks?
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely.
I don't see why not.
Doesn't public space privatization create inequality and social unrest?
Any more than already exists? I don't think so.
All right. Thank you. We have just 1 minute left. In our previous episode, we discussed abolishing the United States Department of Transportation and decentralizing maintenance of the interstate highways to the states. This is already being done in practice anyway. I think we might agree that privatizing city streets is more complicated, but current technology makes it feasible if the political will is there. Thank you, Derek, for participating in today's Privatize Everything discussion.
You're quite welcome.
Thank you to our viewers for watching Hardfire TV. Each of our episodes appears 6 times monthly on the Brooklyn Free Speech Network citywide and streaming through the Brick Arts Media House. We have made more than 50 programs about classical liberal ideas on our YouTube channel. Just search for Hardfire TV and Brooklyn Free Speech. Thank you.
Thank you.